Bishop Peter Carrell, the Anglican Bishop of Christchurch, is with me on this. Good afternoon to you. Thanks so much for your time.
That's fine. Good afternoon, Chris.
Following yesterday's meeting with church members and those involved in the project, did you get the feeling this was always going to be the inevitable outcome?
When we announced back in April that we had a funding challenge and we used the term mothball then, we're now talking about pausing construction. It was always a possibility, but we kept our hopes very high that funding would come from the government and that would help us to get to where we wanted to be. So it's been a heavy moment, well, a heavy period really. It's 11 days since we heard from the government, and yesterday's decision was tough but inevitable, I think.
What do you say to the people of Christchurch who may have invested money in the reinstatement already?
Well, I'm one of those people. I've been giving to the project, and I would say to all those people in Christchurch and beyond that we are still committed to the cathedral being reinstated. It is now going to take a bit longer.
Bishop, I think it's important to have a very brief history lesson on this for those who may be saying, it's the Anglican Church, have got all the money in the world, because let's get real here, the Anglican Church didn't actually want this option of the original rebuild. So how do you feel knowing now that this could actually have all been avoided if the church was allowed to build the modern structure, which probably would have been built by now?
That history is correct, Chris. I have never spent much time in my life with regrets about what might have been different in the past. The situation today is what it is, and it has been that since our 2017 decision to reinstate on the basis of support and encouragement from the government and the City Council, and because we had been stuck in the courts with those who are litigating against us demolishing.
Are there any discussions now about leaving the building as some sort of disaster tourism piece? Because, I mean, that's essentially what it is now.
No, there are no current discussions about exactly that because it's not a tourist visitable site right now. Whether we ever got to that option, of course, all things are possible, but in today's health and safety, we'd have to have the building still have money spent on it to get it to anywhere like this. I'd lived in England once. There are all sorts of ruins you can visit there, but you don't worry about earthquakes and them toppling on you while you're visiting them, having walked across an open field to get there. In New Zealand, we know that that's not quite possible.
Bishop, so what happens now? Is it all tools are down and that is it for the foreseeable future? I mean, I know you don't like to use the word mothballed, and it's sort of an ugly word, but that's essentially what happens now, isn't it?
Well, there's a pause in construction. What we've got to get our heads around is what is the forward work we can do on fundraising, on enabling, say, controlled parties of visitors to be able to get into the cathedral. We've been doing some tours through recent months and they've been very popular. Mothballing tends to imply that the site's completely shut up and shut off from people. We're looking at the ways in which we keep our project alive and keep interest in it alive. I want to stress that some sort of controlled visiting is not what I'd call disaster tourism as such, because, I mean, everyone would be wearing hard hats and all that sort of thing, because it remains a construction site, whatever happens in the next few months as we demobilise.
Was the project always reliant or hoping to be reliant on the government funding? Because, you know, for the past few years, whether it was Labour or National, there was a very strong sentiment that the money that was already provided from the previous government, that was it, though. I mean, this probably doesn't come as a surprise, does it?
It's been very difficult for us since earlier this year. We faced the fact that we had an increased cost, which made it inevitable that we would have to ask the government. Because, yes, we knew that government funding wasn't particularly an option prior to that, and we hoped very much that our fundraising would be successful to get to the funds we needed. But once we realised the true engineering challenge of this building was significantly more than we had thought, and as we announced earlier in the year, we had a new fundraising target to reach. It's been necessary to go back to the government not least because I think some of our donors have expected that we would ask them. So we have asked them. They've said no. Now we have to ask what's next.
For you personally, Bishop, what does today's announcement mean for you? I mean, in some respects, could it be said that it's business as usual because you still have got the transitional cathedral, your parishioners still have plenty of other locations as well?
Well, I think it's in both ends here. First of all, personally, the emotionally tough time for me was in the days after the government's announcement. Yesterday's meeting, today's interviews and statements are just a continuation of the emotionally difficult 11 days. The end here is absolutely, we still have a transitional cathedral. That work continues, our worship services continue there, and of course all our other parish churches continue with their business as usual. But I've invested a lot of time, energy and effort into the reinstatement, and I will continue to do that. And so this is not an easy time.
Just finally, if I could write out a cheque right now, although I didn't win the $44 million I was hoping to, but anyway, how much money does the reinstatement project really honestly need now to get this thing finished?
Off the top of my head, the big sums we're looking at, $85 million we've called the funding gap, $26 million of fundraising, which is, if you like, the ordinary fundraising of the project. And we've been having good conversations about that in recent months, but of course they've got a bit stymied by the lack of a pathway to completion. We've committed $16 million from the diocese, including the likely proceeds of selling the transitional cathedral site. And of course, we also would want, when we recommence our work, to use the $7 million of council money that is yet to come to us. So that's 85 and 26, 111 and 16, 127, another 7, about 134 million. But the 85 is the key, because that gives the confidence to donors to give. It gives confidence to the diocese to proceed to sell the transitional cathedral. And of course, it would also give the council confidence to hand over the remaining 7 of the $10 million they had committed.
A lot of money, Peter, isn't it? A lot of money.
It is a lot of money. It's a lot of money, but it is focused on a Christchurch City project. And of course, we've had a number of big money projects. We've completed the town hall. We're getting closer to completing the multi-event arena. We're getting closer to completing Parakore. The convention centre is open. A city is an expensive project, any which way you look at it. So yes, it's a lot of money, but it's part of being a fabulous city, which Christchurch is.
Well, it's nice to speak with you, and I wish you all the very best, Bishop Peter Carrell, Anglican Bishop of Christchurch. Thanks so much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you.